They promised she'd revolutionize the league. They hyped her up as the face of the future. But no one warned us that the league itself might be her biggest obstacle. It only took a few games for Caitlin Clark to go from the WNBA's prized poster child to public enemy number one on the court, and not just from rival teams. This wasn't your average rookie growing pains scenario. What unfolded looked a lot more deliberate and a lot more dangerous. After every single game, WNBA players, fans, coaches are all complaining about the referees, and they have shown that they're not going to change anything because the referees continue to be horrible. Game after game, Caitlin took hits, was shoved to the ground, and had to play through a sea of missed whistles. And the people who were supposed to ensure fairness, the refs, they stood by like extras in a bad drama. What started as the occasional oversight quickly spiraled into an epidemic of no calls. Then came the moment no one wanted. Caitlin sidelined with a quad injury. And suddenly, fans started replaying every ignored foul, every body check that went unchecked, every glance she gave to the officials begging for a whistle that never came. It stopped looking like bad luck. It started looking intentional. And just when the conversation reached a fever pitch, boom, new reports began to peel back the curtain on just how broken this officiating system really is. This is a WNBA problem, and as more and more eyeballs are watching this league, it becomes growingly an issue. The officiating feels you never have a true grasp on what it's going to be. It turns out a chunk of the league's referees were pulled from, you guessed it, high school leagues. And they're not even calling games based on their own judgment. No, the league relies on a behind-the-scenes brain trust of GMs, coaches, and stakeholders telling officials how physical they want games to be. The referee's not listening to them. They're not listening to the coaches. They're not listening to the players. They're not listening to the fans. They're listening to their stakeholders. That's why I keep saying nothing is going to change till the mindset and to whoever's running all of this, the stakeholders, governance, whoever these people are, and Caitlin Clark. She's caught smack in the middle of this chaos, where influence, ego, and economics collide. Now, after weeks of growing outrage, viral clips are spreading like wildfire, and even coaches and players speaking out, the WNBA is finally feeling the heat, with whispers of lawsuits and rumors swirling about referee bias. The league's golden goose might become its biggest liability, unless it acts fast. And here's the million-dollar question. How far will they go to shut down the same player they've been cashing in on since day one? Caitlin Clark is being wrapped up, but the physical wear and tear on Caitlin Clark, I'm not surprised that 2 weeks into the season, she's already got an injury. Caitlin Clark has never been one to back down. Back at Iowa, she rewrote the record books, brought in millions of fans, and turned women's hoops into primetime television. So when she stepped into the WNBA, everyone expected fireworks. Not just from her game, but from the excitement she'd generate for a league that needed a miracle, and for a minute, it was working. Attendance exploded, TV ratings broke records. But instead of the league rolling out the red carpet, Clark was met with elbows, attitude, and hostility from the jump. Caitlin Clark, somebody who was responsible for 26.5% of all WNBA economic activity last season, including revenue from merchandise, ticket sales, and television, Caitlin Clark out at least 2 weeks waited. But can the WNBA maintain without her? Can the WNBA pack arenas draw ratings from the moment she hit the floor as a pro? It wasn't just about basketball, it was personal. Every matchup felt like a gauntlet. Defenders weren't just guarding her, they were bodying her like it was UFC fight night. She got full court pressure, off-ball hacks, and floor contact that belonged in a rugby match, not a basketball game. And where were the refs? Nowhere to be found. Contact that would have earned a whistle for any other top-tier player got nothing for Clark. Time and again, she had to just grit her teeth and push through. The referees just exposed her hand. So bad, bro. I mean, they just didn't care no more. They didn't care. The world was watching how bad the cause was. They didn't care at all. They was going to get their issue off against the fever, no matter what. And I'm here to tell you, that's exactly what went down, bro. They have an agenda against Caitlin Clark, all while the league peddled the same tired line. She just needs to adjust. But why is it always on her to change? Why is Caitlin Clark the only star told to toughen up while everyone else gets protected like crown jewels? Then came the injury. After logging monster minutes game after game, often upwards of 35 minutes a night, Caitlin was ruled out with a left quad strain. Sidelined for at least 2 weeks, it wasn't just a setback. It was a gut punch to the Indiana Fever and a massive loss for the entire WNBA. And for a whole lot of fans, it didn't feel like a freak accident. It felt like the price of neglect, like the end result of a season's worth of unchecked aggression and a league that didn't take care of the only player who was keeping the lights on. Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark has suffered a left quadriceps strain and will be out for a minimum of 2 weeks. This wasn't some unavoidable twist of fate. It was a disaster that could have been dodged. What made it sting even more? The deafening silence. The league didn't utter a word about the beatings Caitlin Clark had been enduring. No statements, no apologies, just another name added to the injury list. But this wasn't just any name. This was the face of the WNBA's new era, benched not because she couldn't handle the heat, but because the very system meant to shield her chose to look the other way. It's the Caitlin Clark disrespect, and what I mean by that is, you've got somebody who is obviously the most popular player in basketball. You got somebody that I would argue may be a top 5 most popular athlete in the United States of America, alright? You got this athlete in a league that nobody's been watching, never turned a profit, and your system is broken against that team. Even those on the court hinted at the issue. Kelsey Mitchell, Clark's own teammate, subtly encouraged her to heed her body's warnings. A quiet nod to the fact that Caitlin was pushing through pain most would sidestep. Fans noticed, media outlets highlighted it, and now the burning question is, why was the league's brightest star left so exposed, and who stands to gain from her absence? Digging deeper into the WNBA's officiating reveals a troubling reality. The referees aren't just green, they're underqualified. Some have leaped from high school courts straight into the WNBA, bypassing crucial development stages like college or the NBA G League. These aren't seasoned professionals with years under their belts. They're often learning the ropes while officiating the most high-stakes games the league has ever seen. And this lack of experience is glaringly evident, especially when it comes to managing the league's most talked-about player, Caitlin Clark. For you guys, and they do not talk about it here, and that's why I also don't want us to personally attack some of these referees. I think they're doing their job if they are hiring referees who basically didn't have any experience but high school refereeing jobs, then they did a stint in the G League. Like, these referees actually aren't. I gained and reconfirmed with myself that not much is going to change, but the rabbit hole goes deeper. These officials aren't making calls based solely on their judgment. Behind the scenes lurks a competition committee dictating how games should be officiated. This committee comprises coaches, general managers, and stakeholders, not impartial entities but individuals with vested interests in specific outcomes. This isn't mere speculation. League insiders have confirmed it in interviews. Referees are being instructed on the level of physicality to permit, which fouls to prioritize, and what style of play aligns with the league's branding, not necessarily what's fair. Caitlin Clark's presence disrupts this carefully curated status quo. She introduces a new tempo, garners unprecedented media attention, and brings a spotlight that unsettles the existing system. Her dynamic style clashes with the rougher, slower, more physical game the committee seems to favor. The consequence? She faces undue punishment on the court without the protection she deserves. Contact that would trigger immediate whistles in the NBA or even college games is dismissed. No calls, no justice, just silence. And when she seeks explanations from the officials, she's met with indifference. This isn't paranoia. The bias is systematic. Time and again, Clark endures uncalled hits, while her slightest contact results in immediate fouls. Coach Stephanie White attempted to challenge one such instance during a critical game, but an obscure rule blocked her because she lacked a full timeout, only a reset. The officials remained shielded. Clark did not. This kind of convoluted rule enforcement doesn't just cost games, it erodes trust. I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing. This isn't about isolated errors. It's about a flawed structure where referees answer not to the principles of the game or fairness, but to concealed interests. Caitlin Clark is being targeted not just by defenders but by a system desperate to control the narrative rather than safeguard its most valuable asset, The only draw in your league, the only player capable of selling tickets, is potentially out for an extended period of time. What the hell are you gonna do now? The more that comes to light, the clearer it becomes. The officiating crisis isn't accidental, it's intentional. The league might attempt to downplay the issue, but the backlash is intensifying. Fans aren't the only ones raising concerns. Players, coaches, and analysts nationwide are openly criticizing the officiating, with Caitlin Clark at the epicenter. This isn't about seeking favoritism, it's about demanding fairness in that situation, and I understand the frustration that I think comes the most with officiating is the inconsistencies of officiating. But listen, this is not unique to the WNBA. When referees consistently overlook blatant fouls on a star who draws record-breaking attention, people start demanding accountability. One of the most discussed moments occurred during the Fever versus Liberty showdown. With the game hanging in the balance, Clark drove to the basket and was clearly fouled by Natasha Cloud. The contact was so evident that replays from every angle confirmed it, yet there was no whistle, no call. Game over. All right, when that foul took place, CBS said, "She's got a challenge left." Well, it didn't matter. She couldn't use it. Steffi White could not challenge that foul call. Lexi Hall, the one that led to the game-winning free throws from Sabrina Ionescu, because she didn't have a timeout. You need a full timeout, not a reset timeout, to initiate the challenge. Now, my issue with that is it would have been nice if the CBS announcers hadn't even brought up the challenge. Clark and her teammates immediately confronted the officials, seeking an explanation, but received none. The officials simply walked away. It sent a clear message not just to Clark, but to all viewers. The whistle doesn't blow the same for everyone. And this wasn't an isolated incident. Earlier, Coach Stephanie White tried to challenge a questionable foul on Lexi Hull, but due to lacking a full timeout, league rules prevented her from initiating a challenge. Fans unfamiliar with the rule assumed White had erred. In reality, her hands were tied by a system designed to shield officials from scrutiny. The players were left vulnerable, while the referees remained shielded by technicalities. Frustration has now spread beyond Indiana. Brittany Griner halted a live halftime interview to vehemently criticize the referees on national television. Other coaches have labeled the officiating as disrespectful during post-game press conferences. These grievances aren't merely emotional outbursts, they're strategic critiques. Players and coaches are highlighting that the rules aren't being applied uniformly, and this inconsistency is disrupting the game's rhythm. Yet the WNBA seems unresponsive, dismissing the criticism as growing pains from new fans unfamiliar with the league's physical style. But that rationale doesn't hold water. The issue isn't physicality, it's the lack of consistency. The moment Caitlin Clark steps onto the court, the rulebook appears to change. She's officiated differently, faces more aggressive challenges, and when she perseveres, the officials overlook the toll until her body succumbs. Now, sidelined with a quad strain, she embodies a league controversy that refuses to dissipate. Those speaking out aren't just defending Clark, they're unveiling a culture that rewards silence and penalizes excellence. Caitlin Clark never sought special treatment. She sought the standard every player deserves. Yet the more she excels, the more resistance she encounters, not just from opponents, but from the very system meant to safeguard her. The backlash isn't waning. It's intensifying because the league underestimated a powerful force. Fans aren't merely watching anymore, they're scrutinizing. The WNBA had a golden opportunity to redefine its future around a once-in-a-generation talent. Caitlin Clark didn't just join the league, she electrified it. She filled arenas, shattered viewership records, and attracted a new wave of fans eager to invest in the product. But instead of ascending with her, the league appears to be buckling under the pressure, clinging to outdated power structures while ignoring an undeniable truth. The fans are observing everything. They witnessed her being slammed to the floor without recourse. They saw the referees convene and then walk away. They noticed the scoreboard shift, not because the superior team prevailed, but because someone in stripes chose to avert their gaze. Now, these fans aren't just angry, they're mobilizing. Legal pressures are mounting, media outlets are delving deeper, and conversations that once occurred in private are now making headlines. The system is being laid bare, but at the same time, The Fever were on the wrong end of some whistles, it seemed, in this game, and it's seemingly been that way for much of the season, and it's been a recurring theme where there's a level of physicality allowed against them, and they're not allowed to reciprocate on the other end. That particularly, of course, goes for Caitlin Clark. For too long, accountability in the WNBA has been a closed circuit. Referees reporting to committees answering to stakeholders, and no one accountable to the public. But that circuit has been disrupted by the spotlight Clark brought with her. She didn't seek controversy, she didn't aim to be the face of a movement. But when the whistles fell silent and the elbows kept coming, the league cast her into that role. Now, every biased call, every unwarranted foul against her, every crucial no call fuels a fire that's beyond containment. This isn't about favoritism, it's about preserving the integrity of the game. Because what's happening to Caitlin Clark sends a message to every aspiring star and every young girl watching from the stands. Even if you break records, even if you make history, the system might still penalize you for shining too brightly. That's not just unjust, it's unsustainable. A league that fails to protect its stars risks losing them. One injury, one controversy, one unacknowledged foul at a time. If the WNBA doesn't critically examine its officiating, leadership structure, and the covert forces influencing the game, then lawsuits might be just the beginning. Because this issue isn't going away. Caitlin Clark's fans won't let it, the media won't let it, and the truth is already out.